At 11:47 p.m., on a freezing Oregon night, a man stood alone on a bridge overlooking dark black water. A passing driver slowed down beside him. "Everything all right, man?" The stranger smiled calmly, said his car was having trouble. But what that good Samaritan didn't know was that only moments earlier, two small children had been thrown from that bridge into the icy water below, and the man standing there pretending nothing was wrong was their father. But to understand how we got here, we need to go back to the beginning, back to the small coastal town of Newport, Oregon, a place where violent crime almost never happened, a place where people left their doors unlocked, a place where nobody could imagine an entire family would soon vanish into darkness. It started on a cold morning in Walport, Oregon, a quiet little town stretched along the Pacific coastline, the kind of place where mornings usually brought crashing waves, seagulls, and fishermen heading out before sunrise. But on this particular morning, something horrifying washed ashore. A man walking alone along the beach noticed something floating in the water. At first, he couldn't tell what it was. Then he got closer and realized it was the body of a child. He immediately called 911. Detectives Dennis Bossy and Trish Miller from the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office rushed to the scene. What they found stunned them. A little boy, wearing only underwear, no obvious injuries, no blood, no bruises, nothing that immediately explained how he died. He looked cared for, loved. His nails were trimmed neatly, his hair was groomed. This wasn't a neglected child. This was somebody's son. Investigators initially believed it might have been a tragic accident, maybe a drowning, maybe a child who wandered too close to the water, and they expected that at any moment, terrified parents would come running down the beach searching for him. But nobody came. Hours passed, then an entire day. No missing child report, no frantic mother, no desperate father, nothing. That's when investigators realized this was something far darker. The unexplained death activated the major crime team, local police, state investigators, and eventually, the FBI. Special Agent Mike Hallman had worked countless difficult cases during his 17 years with the Bureau. And from the beginning, something about this case disturbed him deeply. The FBI established a command post and began knocking on doors throughout the community. Every neighborhood, every apartment, every business. Investigators carried photographs of the boy asking the same question again and again. "Do you know this child?" Nobody did. The team explored every possible theory. Had there been a car accident nearby? Had a vehicle gone off the road and into the water? Could an entire family be dead somewhere along the coast? The Coast Guard searched waterways from the air. Forest Service roads were checked. Investigators looked for wreckage. Nothing. No clues. No family. No explanation. So police released a sketch of the child to the media. And that's when everything changed. A woman named Denise Thompson was at her parents' house watching television when the image appeared on screen. The moment she saw the sketch, her stomach dropped. She recognized him instantly. That's Zachary. Denise babysat the little boy, 4-year-old Zachary Longo. And just days earlier, she had spent time with him and his younger sisters. Denise immediately contacted authorities. She explained that Zachary's father, Christian Longo, worked with her at a local coffee shop. The family had only been living in Newport for about 6 weeks. Christian, his wife Mary Jane, and their 3 children, Zachary, Sadie, and Madison. Police rushed to the family's upscale condominium overlooking the Oregon coast. But when they arrived, nobody was home. Inside, the condo looked eerily normal, clean, organized. No signs of struggle, no overturned furniture, no blood. It looked as if the family might walk back through the front door at any moment, but they never did. And investigators quickly realized something terrifying. Nobody in Newport really knew the Longos. They had no close friends in town, no relatives nearby, no roots in the community. The FBI launched a nationwide search trying to identify anyone connected to them. Friends, family, co-workers, anyone who might know where they had gone. Meanwhile, divers searched the water near where Zachary's body had been found. Investigators hoped they might uncover clues. What they discovered instead turned the case into a nightmare. A diver spotted something beneath the water. a sleeping bag. Inside it was another child's body, a toddler girl, also wearing only underwear. But this time, there was no doubt it was murder. A pillowcase filled with rocks had been tied to her ankle. Someone had tried to make sure she would never surface. Investigators believed the child was Zachary's younger sister, 3-year-old Sadie Longo. And then, the divers found another weighted pillowcase nearby. At that moment, investigators realized something horrifying. Zachary had likely been murdered the same way. Weighted down, thrown into the water, discarded like trash. Even veteran detectives struggled emotionally with what they were seeing. One investigator later admitted it was the first time in his career that he completely broke down crying at a crime scene. Who could do something like this? Who murders children? And where was the rest of the family? Because Christian Longo, his wife Mary Jane, and baby Madison were still missing. And if you think that's shocking, wait, because investigators still didn't know whether they were searching for victims or hunting a killer. 3 days passed. Fear spread throughout Newport. Residents locked their doors. Some slept with guns beside their beds. Parents kept children indoors. Nobody knew if a predator was roaming the town. Tips flooded in. One caller reported a suspicious car near a children's park. Another described helping a man stopped on a bridge the night before Zachary's body surfaced. The driver said his car had problems. The witness thought the interaction felt strange, but he hadn't gotten a license plate number. Then investigators focused on the man who had discovered Zachary's body. Like many homicide investigations, they had to consider everyone, even the person who found the victim. And things became more suspicious when detectives learned the man had a history of violence against children. During questioning, he denied involvement. But police discovered blood inside the bathroom of a building where he attended Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. Luminol revealed stains on the walls. Investigators feared they had found their killer. Blood samples were rushed to the lab. But days later, everything collapsed. The man passed a lie detector test, and forensic testing showed the blood had nothing to do with Zachary. It belonged to drug users who frequented the bathroom. Once again, the investigation was back at zero. So the FBI dug deeper into the Longo family itself, and what they discovered about Christian Longo would change the entire case. Mary Jane Baker had grown up in Michigan in a strict Jehovah's Witness household. She was described as kind, devoted, and deeply religious. Christian Longo entered her life when she was in her 20s. He was charming, handsome, soft-spoken, only 17 years old. To outsiders, they looked perfect together. They married in 1993. Soon after, they had children. First Zachary, then Sadie, then Madison. Friends described Mary Jane as a loving mother. The children were always clean, happy, well cared for. Christian started a business cleaning construction sites. At first it succeeded. The Longos appeared to be building the American dream. But beneath the surface, everything was falling apart. Clients stopped paying Christian's company, debt mounted, payroll checks bounced, and Christian became desperate. Ashamed of his financial collapse, he moved the family west in September 2001 to Newport, Oregon, a fresh start, or at least that's what he claimed. He got a job at a coffee shop where he met Denise Thompson. Denise liked him immediately. He was friendly, funny, a young father trying to support his family. She even babysat the Longo children so Christian and Mary Jane could enjoy a date night. And Denise adored those kids. She later said they were some of the easiest children she had ever watched. Nothing about the family seemed dangerous. Nothing seemed broken. But behind closed doors, Christian Longo had been living a lie for years. Investigators discovered a disturbing history of fraud and manipulation stretching back long before Oregon. Christian had forged checks, written fraudulent payments, stolen from employees, even deceived his own parents. He constantly tried to appear successful, driving new vehicles, pretending the family was financially secure. But it was all fake. Eventually, his crimes caught up with him. At a bank in Michigan, Christian attempted to cash another fraudulent check. The teller became suspicious. Christian panicked and fled, leaving his identification behind. Police later arrested him. The scandal humiliated the family inside their Jehovah's Witness congregation, and according to relatives, Mary Jane suffered deeply because of it. Christian later relocated the family again, this time to Ohio. There, he stole expensive construction equipment and tried to resell it. When police closed in, he fled again, dragging his wife and children across the country without warning, leaving behind clothes, photo albums, family keepsakes, even Mary Jane's wedding dress, her Bible, her graduation diploma, everything. Relatives later described Mary Jane as trapped, completely dependent on Christian, isolated from everyone she loved. And then came the most chilling discovery of all. Investigators learned that during the family's first days in Newport, they had stayed at a hotel. After they checked out, a housekeeper found family photo albums abandoned inside, birth certificates, children's footprints, Mary Jane's driver's license. To investigators, it felt deeply wrong. A mother does not casually abandon memories of her children, not unless something terrible has happened. Filled with dread, divers returned to the water, this time near the Longos condominium docks. And there, beneath the surface, they found 2 suitcases. Hair protruded from one zipper. Inside one suitcase was Mary Jane Longo. Inside the other, 2-year-old Madison. Both had been strangled. Mary Jane's body had been stripped naked and folded into the suitcase. The brutality horrified investigators. Mary Jane's family was shattered. There were no words left, no explanations, only grief. Now one question remained. Where was Christian Longo? Was he dead, or had he murdered his entire family and disappeared? Then Denise Thompson revealed something investigators had never heard before. The night she babysat the Longo children, Christian and Mary Jane returned home around 11 p.m. Christian looked devastated. His eyes were red, as if he had been crying. Days later at work, he approached Denise with shocking news. "My wife left me," he said. "She took the kids." That was the last time anyone in Newport saw him. At first, friends defended Christian fiercely. There was no way this smiling father could murder his family. No way. But investigators weren't so sure anymore. Because as they uncovered more about Christian's past, a pattern emerged. A lifelong manipulator, a compulsive liar, a man obsessed with image and control. Then came the breakthrough. Christian Longo applied for a job at a Starbucks in San Francisco, using references from Oregon, using names investigators recognized instantly. He was alive. And suddenly, the FBI knew exactly who they were hunting. Agents rushed to San Francisco hoping to catch him at the Starbucks, but Christian never appeared. Instead, they tracked fraudulent credit card purchases linked to him, plane tickets, San Francisco to Texas, Texas to Cancun, Mexico. Christian Longo had fled the country. The FBI immediately placed him on the 10 most wanted list. Flyers covered Cancun, bus stations, taxi depots, internet cafes. Authorities knew fugitives often sought connections back to the United States, and within 48 hours, someone spotted him. A tour guide recognized Christian from the posters. He had recently given him a tour and dropped him at a beachside campground nearly 50 miles from Cancun. FBI agents and Mexican authorities quietly surrounded the area. And there, inside a tropical cabana, they found Christian Longo living under a fake identity, not grieving, not hiding in fear. Instead, he was partying, relaxing, sleeping with a German tourist he had convinced he was a freelance journalist. A double life. Again. Agents stormed the cabana. Christian initially denied who he was, but when an FBI agent held up the wanted poster, Christian finally admitted the truth. He was arrested without incident. During the flight back to the United States, agents tried desperately to get a confession. Christian spoke in strange religious language. He described his dead family as being asleep, in a better place, and when agents directly asked why he killed them, Christian never fully answered, but his words spoke volumes. Then came the trial, March 10, 2003. The nation watched closely. Christian Longo shocked everyone by pleading guilty to murdering Mary Jane and Madison. But he denied killing Zachary and Sadie. Instead, he blamed his dead wife. Christian claimed he returned home to find Mary Jane had murdered the older children in a rage. He said he strangled her afterward, then killed Madison because the baby was already dying. It was a horrifying accusation. Even Mary Jane's grieving family sat in court stunned by the cruelty of it. Christian wasn't just trying to save himself, he was destroying Mary Jane's reputation from beyond the grave. But prosecutors dismantled his story, piece by piece, and the jury saw through him. After deliberating, they convicted Christian Longo on 4 counts of aggravated murder. 1 week later, he was sentenced to death. Most people believed the nightmare was finally over. But years later, Christian admitted the truth during a jailhouse interview. He confessed he murdered his family because he was financially ruined. He couldn't bear the humiliation, couldn't face being exposed as a failure, so he decided to erase everything. He strangled Mary Jane shortly after they had been intimate together, placed her body inside a suitcase, killed baby Madison, stuffed her into another suitcase weighted with clothes and diving weights, then dumped them beneath the docks. Afterward, he drove Zachary and Sadie to the bridge near Waldport. One by one, he threw them into the freezing water below. And moments later, when a passing stranger stopped to help, Christian calmly lied his way out of suspicion. Again, just another performance, another manipulation. Then he drove home and attended a Christmas party, as if nothing had happened. What makes this case so haunting isn't just the brutality, it's the deception. Christian Longo looked normal, acted normal, smiled normally. Co-workers liked him, friends trusted him. Even investigators initially wondered if he might be another victim. But behind that clean-cut image was a man capable of annihilating his entire family to protect his ego. And perhaps the most disturbing part, he almost got away with it. Christian Longo remains on death row. Years later, he attempted to donate his organs as what he called penance for his crimes. Authorities denied the request. For the families left behind, no gesture could ever erase what happened. Mary Jane, Zachary, Sadie, and Madison. An entire family destroyed by one man's desperation and vanity. A father who cared more about preserving an illusion than protecting the people who loved him most. And even now, people still ask the same question investigators asked back in Oregon. What would make a man do something like that? Maybe we'll never fully know. But one thing is certain, evil doesn't always look monstrous. Sometimes, it smiles at you across the counter of a coffee shop. And somewhere tonight, another family man is probably hiding secrets nobody around him could ever imagine. The terrifying truth is that monsters rarely look like monsters until it's too late.